So, empty grocery shelves, endless shipping delays, prices just going absolutely through the roof. We've all been dealing with this over the last few years, right? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive into the actual reasons behind all of this frustration. And trust me, it's not exactly what we've been told. Let's unpack what the source material actually reveals.
You know the popular narrative, the one we hear all the time, is that a global pandemic basically just broke the system. But our sources ask us to consider something a whole lot more intentional. They suggest these bottlenecks, these crazy price spikes, they aren't just some temporary glitch caused by a virus, they are actually the result of systemic, deliberate choices made over several decades.
Okay, Section 1, the supply chain myth. Let's peel back the curtain and see what the data actually tells us.
So here is the big myth, accidental pandemic chaos, right? But the reality presented in the text is actually kind of shocking. The system is working exactly as it was designed to. Decades of corporate deregulation essentially allowed these massive companies to prioritize shareholder profits and aggressive cost-cutting over any kind of systemic resilience. I mean, they literally traded durability for efficiency, leaving absolutely zero margin for error when a crisis actually hit.
Moving on to Section 2, looting the railroads. Let's look at how this corporate strategy completely hollowed out the backbone of American freight. The text points out how corporate jargon is basically weaponized here to disguise the gutting of the workforce. So, take precision scheduled railroading, or PSR. Now, that sounds like a super smart analytical upgrade, right? Well, under that banner, major railroads slashed their workforces by nearly a third between 2016 and 2022. They parked locomotives, they put off maintenance, and they stretched trains to be over 3 miles long. And why? Just to squeeze out more short-term cash.
It all comes down to pleasing Wall Street. And to do that, railroads became completely obsessed with this thing called their operating ratio. To get this number lower, which basically just means spending less money to make more money, they started abandoning less profitable routes and pushed their remaining workers to the absolute brink. Predictable schedules? Gone. And customers were left facing massive delays because, honestly, the railroads just didn't have the staff or the equipment left to handle any kind of surge in demand.
So where did all those savings actually go? $183 billion. That is the staggering amount these major railroads handed over to shareholders over 11 years through buybacks and dividends. Think about that. Instead of putting that capital back into, reliable service or better equipment or just adequate staffing, the sources show this massive wealth transfer enriched investors while leaving the actual physical supply chain incredibly fragile.
And of course, this relentless cost-cutting took a massive human toll. The text highlights workers like Anthony Gunter. This is a guy who spent over a decade doing back-breaking labor for the railroad. But by denying basic benefits, like paid sick leave, and enforcing what the source describes as just draconian attendance policies, the railroads forced these dedicated workers into impossible choices. I mean, they had to choose between their family's health and their jobs. Eventually, people just started to quit.
If we map this out, it really charts a direct path of cause and effect. It all starts back with the 1980 Staggers Rail Act, which deregulated the industry and kicked off a wave of monopolies. Fast forward, we see the widespread adoption of that precision-scheduled railroading we talked about, which leads right into a 2022 labor dispute where workers were denied sick leave just to keep the trains moving. And finally, the tragic 2023 East Palestine derailment. The text links that disaster directly to the consequences of skeletal staffing, deregulation, and totally ignored safety warnings.
All right, Section 3, the truck driver illusion. Let's shift gears a bit and see what the data actually says about the whole trucking crisis.
You've probably heard industry lobbying groups claiming we have a shortage of like 80,000 drivers, right? Well, here is the reality. Over 10 million Americans actually hold commercial driver's licenses. The sources make a really strong assertion here. It is not a labor shortage at all. It's a shortage of people willing to endure sweatshop-like conditions. There are plenty of qualified drivers out there. They're just flat out refusing to work under the industry's current standards. Just wrap your head around this number, 100%. That is the annual turnover rate among large, long-haul trucking companies. Literally 100%. Basically, these companies are replacing their entire workforce every single year. As the text points out, when an industry has a turnover rate that high, it's a huge, glaring red flag that the jobs themselves are the problem, not the people.
So how did it get this bad? The sources explain that long-haul driving actually used to be a really lucrative, unionized middle-class career. But much like the railroads following deregulation in the 1980s, it got totally downgraded into a high-stress, low-pay gig. Drivers like Stephen Graves, who's profiled in the text, deal with pure exhaustion and just constant anxiety.
Because they're usually only paid by the mile, the industry treats their time spent waiting at warehouses or circling for parking as financially worthless. It translates to massive amounts of unpaid labor.
Okay, Section 4, Manufacturing a Meat Crisis. Moving from the highways into the grocery store, we're going to see this concept of engineered scarcity at its absolute most extreme.
To really understand this, we have to look at the market structure. When just 4 massive conglomerates control 85% of the entire U.S. beef market, we are looking at a textbook oligopoly. The text explains how these companies hold this immense power to just squeeze independent ranchers, basically forcing them to accept incredibly low prices for their cattle, while at the exact same time hiking up the price you pay for beef at the grocery store.
And how exactly did they wield that power back in 2020? Well, the public was told that the U.S. was on the brink of completely running out of meat. But the reality? According to the source, meat packers were sitting on over 600 million pounds of frozen pork, and they were exporting record amounts to China. The text argues that they basically engineered a public panic. Why? To force the government to classify slaughterhouses as critical infrastructure, which prevented any plant shutdowns.
Now, this critical infrastructure classification was pushed through despite some incredibly dire medical warnings. Local doctors explicitly warned meatpacking executives that keeping those incredibly dense, crowded assembly lines moving would be lethal. Yet, the sources outline how these companies used their political leverage to just keep the plants open anyway. This effectively trapped vulnerable workers who simply couldn't afford to lose their jobs or their health benefits.
And the human cost of all this is just heartbreaking. The text shares the story of Tin A Karen refugee who worked at a JBS plant out in Colorado. She contracted COVID-19 and passed away simply because she didn't have paid sick leave and couldn't afford to take an unpaid day off. It's a really tragic story, and it puts a deeply human face on the lethal cost of denying basic worker protections just to keep production running without interruption.
And when you look at the math here, the imbalance is just staggering. In 2020, JBS generated $22 billion in revenue from its U.S. beef operations alone. And the fine they got from OSHA for failing to protect workers like Tin I, just over $15,000. Like the text notes, that penalty is literally less than what the company earned in revenue every 30 seconds.
Finally, Section 5, the cost of monopolies. As we wrap up this explainer, let's pull all of these threads together. So whether we're talking about trains, trucks, or meat, the common denominator outlined in our sources isn't some mysterious accident or a pandemic glitch. It's a deliberate corporate strategy. Deregulation allowed for massive consolidation. Those new monopolies prioritized shareholder payouts over supply chain resilience. They hid workforce exploitation behind buzzwords like efficiency and precision. And ultimately, the text makes a compelling argument that scarcity is engineered on purpose to limit supply and drive up inflation.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on the next time you're staring at an empty shelf, or tracking a delayed package, or just wincing at a crazy price tag at the grocery store. When monopolies control the supply, who really controls the price? It's something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep asking the hard questions about the systems that run our world.